What's up? Are you doing well, but you still feel bad? Does it frustrate you that when things are going good, you still have these bad feelings? They still come, they never seem to leave, even though you thought when you finally did X, Y, or Z, it was going to be all over. Well, today in your luck, we're going to talk about things are good. Why do I still feel bad? This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Danny, who would be Randy. What's up, Randy?
No, Danny.
So, has this ever happened to you where, like, you realize things are going good, but you still don't feel good?
No, I solved all my problems in life and then it was
I
happily
know,
ever
right?
after, just like the storybooks told. Yeah, it sucks because I still am so naive that I think there's a happily ever after. I get suckered into this all the freaking time where I think, oh, once I just solve this problem, then that'll be it.
I know it makes me feel like an idiot though, because like it happens so regularly that I just feel like how can I keep falling for this? Like lie to myself.
Hmm.
But it's true. Like this just the reason I thought of it was just happened to me this weekend. Where like you know, so happy with how things are going. Things are going really good. But like I had this like wave of like I guess like like it was like not long, but like depression or sad, whatever. I felt terrible for like a little while, and it's like when that happens, then your mind wanders off in the other, like, oh no, everything's a mess and blah, blah, blah. And like your imagination runs. And like I'm happy because I feel like I catch it faster now and I'm better at acknowledging it and like recognizing it, but it still sucks. Like it's still so annoying. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know what? This was actually so like we were talking about who episode ideas before this, and this was kind of one idea that I had is like this is actually the price of peace of mind or the price of my happiness, the cost. Because like they say with every blessing comes a burden. And so like this thing, this obstacle, this problem, this whatever it is basically the reason that it's a problem is because it's keeping us from peace of mind or happiness. But if you understand, like if you can look at it from a different view, like this isn't keeping me from what I want. This is actually the price of what I want. So if you
Hmm.
actually want it, this is the price you have to pay that comes along with it. Like I was doing that this week because I had my shoulder was bothering me, and I was like, oh, like this is the only thing I would be totally cool if it wasn't for my shoulder. And then I reframed it where I was like, well, this is the price of my peace of mind. And all of a sudden, it was just like it still hurts a lot, but like, okay, I can hold this as being the price, and I can have my peace of mind here too while this is happening.
Yeah, I like that because I think we make the mistake all the time. And I know I do this, right? Where we like things are going well or like we finish something and we're like yeah that's awesome we're celebrating but we forget that like well that means that now we need something else to do right or like like think of relationships like they do take work like you can't just like do nothing because then you won't be engaging won't be you won't be sort of fostering it and cultivating it over time. Everything is like that in life, so it's like nothing's ever really finished, or when it is finished, we have to move on to something else. So there's always some other problem dilemma. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. It's like, it is
Yeah.
the price of it kind of.
And yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, it's a never-ending thing. I
It
think
is.
like we're so, I mean, maybe not everybody, but I was sold this concept of like happily ever after. You know, you just go to
All the movies,
school, you
dude, when
get
you're
a
a
good
kid,
job, and
every
then
yeah.
happily ever after. Like everything is just happily ever after. Like you just do this hard work that sucks. And as long, it doesn't matter if you don't enjoy it and if it's terrible, as long as you just suck it up and do it. If it means me taking a chubby, well, then I'll just suck
Yeah.
it up. Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, it kind of defeats the whole purpose because that whole like sucking up that you have to do, that's actually kind of just your life. And then eventually you get to this thing, you do whatever, you get there, it's totally disappointing. And then you're like, ah, great, now on to the next thing.
Well, I think that's the biggest disservice that is we do, I think, to when kids are young and stuff is, everything's phrased as like conditional, right? Like you watch all these movies where, you just got to find the right person, then everything's great, or you just got, whatever. And then like, you get to school and everyone's like, well, if you just do well, then you can go to college, then you can get a good job, blah, 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 and you'll be, things will be fine. It's always these like conditionals, like if you do this, then that, rather than focusing on like the journey, the process, the fact that you get to build these skills, learning things, any of that that would be probably more valuable and put you in the moment, we're taught to look at the end, not, the actual thing that we're doing.
talking about the dichotomy of control. I mean, that's
right there,
perfect
right?
because, yeah, you have like the if then statements, and the if is within your control. The then is never within your control. But all of us
No.
focus on the then, the result, whereas all we can ever really do is put in the effort or take the
Yeah.
action.
Well, it's funny because I was thinking about this too with respect to Marcus Aurelius, because like his meditations, you see him go back to these same things over and over and over again. And like, it's almost like it's nice to see that he doesn't resolve it because I think it's true, it's accurate, like it would be really disingenuous if he was like, "Yep, that's it. I accept death now. I'm good. Moving on." And like, and I think you're right. Like it is. It's this issue with control, and I think we're taught to act as if we can control things that we really have no control over, which is
Hmm.
kind of a mess because that means we're teaching everybody to focus on things that they really can't.
Hmm.
I think this is why we have so much blame and victimization culture and stuff because of
Oh,
that, right?
totally.
It feels like, well, I did all the right things. This didn't work out, so it must be the world's fault.
Totally. And it could be.
Yeah.
But like the beginning of book two, he says like begin your morning by saying to yourself, today I'll meet with the arrogant, the ungrateful, the deceitful, the envious, all of these things. And it's funny because I try to read that every morning to as like a reminder to myself that I'm going to encounter these people. But like half the time, I'm like, is he saying this meaning that I'm going to meet this person in myself? Am I going to be ungrateful and arrogant and envious and deceitful and all these? Because it happens. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I
Well,
don't
I
know,
think
it's just kind of comical.
it's probably both, right? It is probably like a that double reference of like you're going to meet this in yourself and you have to be prepared to, deal with it correctly and not like, have control, understand that you can respond a certain way, how you choose. And also you're going to meet people like this that you just don't have control over. So you need to kind of keep that in mind as well. You can't change how they're acting right now. So you
Hmm.
have to kind of respond in the right way.
Yeah, I really like Marcus Aurelius Meditations and the Tao Te Ching because they both talk about good and bad, but they don't say that bad is wrong.
Yeah.
They just say choose good. Whereas, like in our modern society, bad is wrong and everything's bad,
Yeah.
and you need to live your best life and you need to do good. But like, they make this whole value judgment nowadays on bad, but bad is just like ignorance of knowledge of good.
Yeah, it's one way to look at it. And it's funny too, because I think there was more, well, I guess it depends on how you look at it, but I do think like virtue ethics had a little bit more flexibility too, because most of them recognized people were different. So, hitting that whatever that virtuous characteristic is, hitting that's going to be different for each person. And I think now we have this very like we favor a more rigid system,
Oh, totally.
where you have these rights. This is the rule. You do that and
If
nothing
you're a
else, but it
girl and you
doesn't
have
really
sex before marriage, you're bad. If you're a guy and you have sex before marriage, you're good. Like,
Yeah, but like it is stupid. And you get these like, you don't get that like gray area where you make the choices, right? And where you have to think things through. We'd rather people just follow the rules rather than actually think for themselves and become a good person.
mhm.
Or, make the effort to do that. Yeah.
And nowadays it's so easy to get caught by the shiny object syndrome of money and fame. Like they
So
and
easy.
yeah, and dude, I just read this book that, somebody was basically addicted to money and fame, and it basically ruined them. And as their life was falling apart, they were like, totally anxious, depressed, freaking out, couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, all this stuff. And they're like, but on any measure, I'm a success. I have money, I have fame, everybody knows me. And it's like, by any measure, you're not a success. You've just accumulated a lot of money and have a lot of people that are your friends. That's it.
Yeah. That like, yeah, envy you probably, but don't
Mhm.
really, care.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. We have such a effed up like conception and like metrics for success. Like, it's really bad. But it's
Hmm.
why all these things happen, well, because we do. Yeah, it is really a mess. I wish it would be nice if people focused more on like the process and on self-development, but but again, I think it's crazy to see how little we actually there like we don't give anybody even a slight roadmap to deal with anything. It's like amazing. Like how can we not? I don't know. I just think about that sometimes. Like over all these generations of people, how have we not gotten better at that
How has nobody written a
ever?
book with commandments in it to tell us exactly what to
Right.
do? I
Always.
mean, there was
Never
like 10
deviate from
rules we
them.
could follow that kind of
Just
gave us a
10 if you need be.
direction and maybe instructions how to sacrifice some animals in case we have a sin to make up for a sin. If there was just something along these lines.
Be so easy. But that's the other thing that's like, going back to like the Tao Te Ching or like the Stoics or even like any of the philosophers that I always liked was there is a level of interpretation involved when you read it. It's not, they don't say things like always explicitly clear. And I always like that because it means you have to do the work yourself and you have to figure it out. They're not like, it's not that they're just going to give you the answers. I mean, they'll help you get there, and I always like that because it makes room for you to actually take ownership of things rather than just, conforming to some system because everybody else is doing it or like you're told it's right. There's a lot more power in choosing ourselves to do these things and to kind of choose ourselves to go down a certain path.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also like to believe, maybe even um, to deceive myself that, back in the day, people thought that you just where you were in life, and there was no like. Nowadays, it seems like everybody thinks that you can become the star, and maybe you can, you know. But like, I like to think that back in the day, people didn't think that way, and you were just it took a lot of stress off.
What's funny? I remember I read it was like an article on the popularity of like these shows like God, now I can't remember the name of that show. The one that was in the UK about like the
Oh, the
past and like
singer.
all no 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 the ones with the all the servants and stuff in the house. What is that?
Oh,
Downton
Downington
Abbey.
Abbey.
There we go. I was
Yeah.
gonna get there eventually. But yeah, they were saying like they were speculating, that like all the shows like that, like people really liked them too because like that was a time when there was more like defined roles in
Hmm.
society,
Yeah.
and like you were born into stuff. Like you didn't really have much upward mobility beyond like maybe like if you were an artist and your skill could get elevate you a little bit, but that was about it. And it's like a very clear world in that sense. And now we have a lot more freedom in terms of mobility, but it makes it also very hard because like you don't know how to act, what to do. And I mean, I definitely prefer the latter, but I understand why people might like that because it is a little clearer, about
Hmm.
what am I and where am I in the world.
Yeah, dude. And that's when marriage worked out because people had clearly defined roles in the family.
Yeah,
Not saying whether it's right or wrong because some people get all butthurt about that. But, it was one person's job to cook and clean, take care of the children. It was another person's job to earn income. And if everybody
yeah.
did
Well,
their
now
job,
you
the family, you raise a family, you have kids, and everybody prospers.
can't even do that now anyway
Love
because you
didn't even
can't have one
have
person.
anything to do with it until Fiddler on the Roof came out. And then tradition,
Yeah,
tradition.
it's funny. It's funny when you think about it too, because it's like you can't even have those defined roles anymore either, though, because both people have to work because you can't you can't even afford
Isn't
one
that isn't
salary
that
anymore.
funny how like back in the day, so like back, I don't know, before the 80s, the 70s, something like that, one person in the family worked and provided for the whole family. Now, two people work, there's more unemployment and
You
they
can't.
make less money.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, dude, I was thinking about that the other day. Like you could in like the what was it, like 50, 60, you can make like 35 grand a year, support your family, have numerous kids, have car, have all the
And a house
things,
costs
and like
like 10 grand, you know?
yeah, it was insane. Yeah, it was crazy. It's amazing how like exponentially things just went up and inflated in cost.
Hmm.
It's
Well,
crazy.
we've built a bunch of like money dinosaurs. Like we've made a
Yeah,
society of people who are very good at accumulating money and not really
yeah,
cultivating it. And eventually they'll die and they can't take it with them. So it's like another Pharaoh type thing, but hey, so
yeah.
be it.
So be it.
They'll
But
take it
this
with
is the
them to
problem.
Mars.
Yeah, yeah. And then they'll have money on Mars. It's useless.
Yeah. Have fun with money and no air.
Yeah, it's so funny. I don't know. It's weird what we like strive after, but I don't know.
What
But
was the
what do you do
topic
when
of
that
this
happens?
one?
Oh yeah, things are going well, but I still feel bad.
Did we even touch
We've
on
covered
that?
a lot, sort of. I don't know. We've covered a
Uh,
lot. Kind of been going all over the place. That's all right.
uh,
Yeah, I mean, but anyway, I'll go back to this. I think like at least for me when that happens though, and I've been thinking about these philosophers a lot too, because like I think just like acknowledging and reminding myself that like even though I feel this way, it's not something happening to me. I mean, it is in a sense because, but like I can identify it and I can then do something about it. I can take ownership of it. I can decide how it affects me. I can decide how I respond to it. And like that's been helpful. Like yesterday when that happened, or no, 2 days ago when it happened, rather. Like normally, like in the past, I would have just been bummed out and upset, and I would like imagine all these things and got more depressed over time. Instead, I recognized it, took a break, and then I just started doing some work, tried to take my mind off it, do other things, and then I felt better after a little while. And like I think doing that direct action is a much better way of doing it. Like thinking about what can I do rather than like just dwelling on this like
Mm.
idea of, feeling bad or whatever.
Well, that's a great one because it is a skill, like learning how to deal with feeling bad because it's going to happen. And there was something that I was listening to that was saying like it's not a terrible thing to feel bad. It's a terrible thing to be unable to endure feeling bad. And it's like
Yeah,
that's the skill that you need to work on is being able to endure feeling bad. And it's just like, and it sucks because at the time you're like, I feel bad. I just want to not feel bad. Like, what are you talking about
yeah.
enduring this? Like, just get me out of this.
Well, it's funny too because you think about like anything we do that like we're proud of, that's work. Generally speaking, it's going to be hard and it's going to suck in the moment at times. And I think it's so easy, and it just speaks to the fact that it's so easy for us, I think, to like lose sight of like the present and get lost in like our imagination and all these things, and just yeah, it's really weird.
Dude, sometimes it's hard. Like when things are bad, just it's hard thinking that they'll get better in the future.
Yeah. That's
Hmm.
what I think. No, you're right. I think like just saying like, it's okay to be bad. It's fine to, it's fine to have a bad day is easier because you're not reflecting on the future. Instead, you're just looking at like this will pass at some point and I can move on from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's part of the human condition. Like we're so individualistic nowadays, we forget this that like as bad as you're feeling right now, other people feel the same exact way too. And a lot of them
Yeah.
do. A lot of them
Yeah.
do. It's like part of your shared humanity, part of our shared humanity.
Isn't it funny that we act as if like all of they're so unique because we're told we're individual, we're
I'm a little
snowflakes, right?
snowflake.
That like no one would possibly understand. But in reality, if you talk to anybody, you realize, oh, probably everybody's had a similar, or at least enough of a similar experience to relate. Maybe not the same thing. And I think like, and once you do that, you realize, oh, I'm not alone too. It's so I think like we're also taught to deal with things alone when we don't have to. We have community, we have people to talk to. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Man, it is hard being in person.
Yeah, so even when everything's going great, it can sometimes be bad, but hey, that's part of the fun.
It is part of the fun, right?
Like when I was young, my grandmother always used to tell me that, and it bothered the heck out of me. I was like, "Why does this
Yeah, it would
suck?" And
piss me
she's
off
like,
when I'm
"This is
done.
what makes life interesting." And I was like, "Yeah, but it sucks. I don't like it." And she was
Why
like,
can't it be
"Well,
good all the time
yeah,
and never feel bad? Everything's easy.
uh-huh,
God damn it.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, you want to add anything else?
Yep, that's all."
All right. There you have it. So things can be good and we can still feel bad, but it's all right. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. Hope you liked the episode. We'll be back later this week with another episode. Watch on YouTube or listen wherever you get your podcasts. Please like, share, subscribe. It helps us out a lot. Until next time, though, later, Randy.
Later, Danny.